You know, when a sports tour goes wrong, it's usually about what happens on the field, right? But for England's cricket team down in Australia, the real drama, the story that actually sparked an official investigation, well, it all went down entirely off the pitch. And it all started in a sunny little beach town.
And there he is. That's the man in charge, England's Director of Cricket, Rob Key. With just one super blunt statement to the media, he kicked off a major inquiry and a complete firestorm of controversy. The stakes were set incredibly high, right from the get-go.
So what was really going on here? This is a story about perception, it's about pressure, and it's about professionalism. What exactly happened during a mid-series break that led to such a massive public fallout? Okay, let's break it all down.
Right, first things first, this wasn't just media gossip or rumours flying around. No, England's management came out and confirmed they were formally investigating the team's conduct. And just like that, it turned into a very official matter.
Rob Key pretty much said, look, my job is to get to the bottom of this. He wanted to figure out what was fact and what might have been, in his words, embellished or elaborated on. So the big question is, what were the two very different sides to the story?
To really get what happened, you have to picture the scene. It all centers on this 4-night break the team took in Noosa, which is a really popular beach town on Australia's Queensland coast. And check out the timing here. I mean, this break didn't just happen in a vacuum. It was wedged right in between these absolutely devastating losses. In fact, Australia managed to win the entire Ashes series in a crazy fast 11 days of cricket. So from a PR perspective, the optics were, let's just say, not great.
And you gotta know, this wasn't some spontaneous last-minute trip. It was planned way in advance. Management decided to stick with the plan even after 2 big defeats. But they did warn the players, hey, expect some scrutiny. And, well, sure enough, the cameras were waiting for them.
Okay, and this is where the story just completely splits in two. Because depending on who you talk to, this break was either a wildly unprofessional party or some much-needed rest and relaxation. 2 totally different versions of events.
The headlines were absolutely brutal. You had multiple reports claiming the whole thing basically turned into something like a stag do, a bachelor party, with all these allegations of excessive, non-stop drinking. But then, get this, a really powerful defense comes from the last person you'd ever expect. Darren Lehmann, the former coach of England's biggest rivals, Australia, just so happened to be in Noosa at the exact same time. And he said what he saw was completely different.
And here are those 2 competing realities, side by side. On one hand, you've got the accusation, backed up by pictures of players drinking in public bars, and on the other, you have an eyewitness saying, no, they were well-behaved, relaxing, playing golf, and just mixing with the locals. So who do you believe?
Well, you can imagine this put the team's management in a really, really tough spot. They were basically walking this tightrope between defending their players' need for a break and, upholding professional standards in the public eye.
This quote from Rob Key really gets to the heart of their whole thinking. His point is that in the modern game, the scrutiny follows these players everywhere. So the whole idea behind the break wasn't just a vacation, it was a deliberate attempt to create a space where they could genuinely escape the pressure cooker of an Ashes tour.
And if you want a perfect snapshot of just how intense that pressure is, just look at this number, 6. That is how many days one of their key players, Harry Brook, was scheduled to be at home for the entire winter. I mean, the demands on today's top athletes are just relentless.
Management was also fighting this whole other battle of perception. They were really keen to distance the team from those old stereotypes. Rob Key was so emphatic, he completely rejected the very idea of a drinking culture, signaling a clean break from the past and a move towards a more modern, professional mindset.
But here's the thing, this wasn't the first time this winter that player conduct had been a bit of a concern. Apparently, an informal warning had already been given out to a couple of players for drinking the night before a match on the previous tour. So it kind of suggests a bit of a pattern was emerging.
And that really is the central dilemma here, isn't it? In an age of non-stop cricket and relentless media scrutiny, how does a team actually unwind without crossing a line? It's a massive challenge every single professional sports team is facing. So to truly grasp this whole story, we've got to zoom out a bit. Because this isn't just about a few beers in Noosa. It's about the unique, super high-pressure environment of an Ashes tour in Australia.
And if you want to understand that pressure, you have to listen to someone who's been right in the thick of it. Paul Farbrace, a former England coach, puts it pretty bluntly. He says the Australian media's goal is simple, to cause as much issue for the England cricket team as they possibly can.
And Fabregas's analysis of the situation is just fascinating. He doesn't blame the players for needing a break at all, but he calls them dopey for just not being aware of their surroundings. By drinking out in the open on a public high street, they played right into a narrative that they were arrogant and basically gift-wrapped a negative headline for the media. As he said, they set themselves up for a fall.
But here is his crucial bottom line. The off-field drama? It was a self-inflicted wound for sure, but it was not the reason they lost the series. England were just being completely outplayed on the pitch, and Fabregas makes it really clear that we shouldn't mix those two issues up.
Which leaves us with this final, really tricky thought. We all accept that elite athletes need downtime. They absolutely deserve a break from all that immense pressure. But in this day and age, with camera phones everywhere and constant media scrutiny, what does that break actually look like? And is it even possible to really have one at all?